Okay, I got one for you guys. We got Renji Abarai versus Uryu Ishida, right? We have two scenarios for this. Pre-time skip, basically them during like the Waco Mundo, Aizen incident, right? Then we'll have the second scenario be during the Thousand Year Blood War, those forms that they have. They're maxed the fuck out. Renji got a new Bankai, his true Bankai. And so Zamaru. Then we got, Uryu with his shrift, the A, the antithesis. And that's in the second scenario. First scenario is not that. That's them before. That's pre-time skip. That's them during Waco Mundo, all right? Scenario one is that, right? And they'll be fighting in. God damn, they'll be fighting in. They'll be fighting in Waco Mundo. They just decided they wanted to fucking fight it out. In scenario one. And this is pre-time skip. This is like them during that time, right? Strength, I'm giving that shit to Renji. I do think Renji's a little bit stronger than Uryu, physically, right? You can get up close and personal sometimes. Uryu, not so much. So we know he can hit. He can hit people a little bit, but he's still a range fighter too, right? Renji is still, a range fighter too. I just see Renji pre-time skip being better than physically stronger than him, like in that category. Physical strength goes to Renji. Speed, I give that shit to Uryu. Uryu was moving pretty nice. Like he wasn't fast. He wasn't able to dodge that sword, but he was kind of like in close range too. It wasn't like he was like way the fuck away. He was kind of close to Ichigo, right? Ichigo just like stabbed it, right? But he was like, maneuvering pretty well against people. The best he could. Renji couldn't maneuver. Like we know that Renji cannot maneuver with the Hihio Zabimaru. That Bankai, he cannot maneuver well. Shit's too big. He is not moving fast like that. So Uryu wins in that category. Durability wise, I give it to Renji. Uryu didn't take much damage at first when they were fighting against Xylopero grunts. It was actually, Renji, and he was still fighting afterwards. He even like used his body, like he sacrificed his body for an attack, for a close range attack, and he was still fighting afterwards. Uryu, he ain't as durable. Endurance, that can go either way too, right? Endurance for them, they both lost, or basically they did lose to Xylopero grunts, because guess who had to step in and help them? One of the captains, right? So they did lose to Xylopero grunts, but what did Renji do? He beat Xylopero's brother, Ufort grunts, right? And he was in spot number 13, right? He beat him, and then Uryu beat Sarusi. Like, outright beat them. Like, they beat these characters, right? These are weaker characters. These are not top 10 Espadas. These are Ronkars. But, Sarusi or Ufort grunts, I'm like, these fights, who was, in it longer and all that shit. I took all that into account, and I'm saying Renji's the one. Intelligence-wise, I got Uryu with that. Uryu's smart. He ain't an idiot. Renji sometimes is. He ain't that smart. He has average intelligence, but he makes it work sometimes. Experience goes to Renji. He's been a sword for a long time. Close skills go to Renji. Range skills go to Uryu. He's shooting off arrows all the time. Shooting off arrows, and then he's laying traps, and then he's like Gila Snyder. He's pouring he's doing a little drop of that, and then boom, hitting Xylopro grunts with that, and it actually did fuck him up a little bit. But recoup, I get that to Uryu. He recovered enough to like run around and do shit later, right? Like try to find Uryu and all that, right? Um, Hacks, I give it to Renji. I think the Bankai Renji will overwhelm, Uryu. Even though he's a little bit faster than other things, he's still gonna have a problem like touching Renji because he can use it defensively and shit too, right? And then he has his little keto spells that he knows how to use. He's not the best at that shit, but he still knows how to pull that shit out a little bit and use it kind of as like a element of surprise because he's also not smart. But he uses that to his advantage. You wouldn't think that I would use some shit like this, but I'm using it. Endurance, or not endurance, the environment goes to Renji. Overall, the first scenario, I get Renji winning this high to mid. Oh, not high to mid diff. High difficulty. It's definitely high difficulty with Renji winning. But now the second scenario, that's the one that you guys want. I know this is the one that you guys want to know about. Renji versus Uryu during the 1,000-Year Blood War. Oh fuck, that's the one. Guess what? I told you in the beginning of this video, I said Renji has Bankai, it's true Bankai. So Zabimaru. He's physically stronger too. He took down Master Maska and low diff. Uryu has upgrades from the Shrift of Ua. Ua actually put a lot of power into the A Shrift that he gave Uryu. How do you know this? Because Uryu is like his successor now. He'll succeed me as the leader of everybody. He survived the Ashwell and light. As a Quincy. Most Quincy's can't do shit like that, so he's like, cool. You my son now, and you lead them forward. After me. Anyways, let's get into this. Physical strength goes to Uryu now. He's got powered up, and this shift gave him a lot of power, boy. Like he was, supposed to not be there, but he was there. Basically, he was in the mix. Speed, like he went to the Royal Guards and fought all these people. He fought against, Sentomaru. He was doing his thing. Now he still needed saved and shit because she was going all the fuck out. But he had those abilities. He had Dior's blood run through everything. Speed goes to Uryu. It was always with Uryu over Renji, right? Durability goes to Renji still. I do think he's a tough guy, even with the blue vein of that Uryu has now. He's still getting damaged by Renji. He's still ripping through that shit. Renji, he's still getting attacked by Uryu. But as far as who has better armor, who's tougher, I think it's Renji. I could be wrong though on that one. I don't care. Renji, I think he's the guy. But Uryu has the endurance this time around. He can actually participate in long fights, not just with anybody, or not just with the weaker people now, but he can, stay in a longer fight with the, person who has like, real power, like Julgrim, Ichigo, these kind of people. Intelligence goes to Uryu. Experience will go to Renji still. Close skills still go to Renji as well. But range skills go to Uryu. Recoup goes to Uryu. Hacks go to Uryu. Shift over the, true Bankai of Renji. We seen this shit in the anime. It went down. Uryu took down Renji, right? Environment goes to Uryu. Because guess what? They're fighting in the Varville. Right? They're fighting in the area of where the Wandenreich is, where these, Sternritters live, right? So he knows about the area and the layout better, right? So he didn't, Renji didn't know shit about that. But all that being said, Uryu wins, and he wins in high diff, right? Um, and that's these two, you know. As far as Deuterogonus goes, or those kind of characters from Bleach, it's like, damn, man, like I like other characters besides them, and I don't know if other people feel the same way, where it's like Kenpachi and Byakuya can like actually beat these guys, right? Or maybe Uryu is a little bit, he's different, but they can still beat him. They can still beat Uryu. If you ask me, Byakuya and Kenpachi can still beat him. But and Renji's still the same way, but they're like closer to being as Deuterogonus than they are. It's just crazy a little bit to me. But that is how the story's written. And finally took like years and all that for Uryu to get his powers or his power up, right? And he was doing his thing. We saw that in the anime. He got beat by Renji got beat by Uryu. So don't be surprised. Be cool, calm the corner. Let me know what you think about that in the comments below.